A wealthy heiress secretly follows her black nanny after work, and what she discovers shatters everything she thought she knew. Behind walls of privilege and polished marble, hidden truths begin to seep through the quiet humiliations, the unspoken cruelty, the hierarchy no one ever questioned. Jessica Ashford believed she was in control of everything until Maya, the soft-spoken woman who had raised her son with devotion, dared to challenge the world she lived in. When power meets quiet resistance, what happens next? Stay with us, because this story will make you question who really holds the power. Once the truth comes to light. You really think I don't know what you've been up to? Jessica Ashford's voice rang through the marble-clad grand hall of the estate, thick with the kind of arrogance only decades of inherited privilege could produce. Running off every day at 5 sharp, refusing a driver, making up stories about where you're going. Maya stood still in the doorway, her hand resting on the key she'd just used to let herself in. At 32, she knew the power of stillness, how silence could cut deeper than noise when wielded correctly. She didn't turn around, didn't rush, just inhaled slowly. Then smiled a quiet, knowing smile, delicate and sharp, as if it held enough secrets to bring down an empire. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but what exactly are you referring to?" Her voice was velvet soft, yet carried the strength of tempered steel. Jessica descended the marble staircase like a queen approaching her throne of judgment. Her pink Chanel suit clashed pointedly with Maya's plain uniform, a contrast Jessica never missed an opportunity to highlight. "Don't play dumb with me," she hissed. "For 3 years you've looked after my son like a saint. But lately—" She stopped now, only a few steps from Maya. "Lately something's different. You're distant. You're hiding something." What Jessica didn't know was that for the past 6 months, Maya had been quietly recording every racially charged comment, every subtle insult, every quiet act of degradation that the Ashfords had come to consider normal. The tiny recorder hidden in her bag now held enough evidence to make even the Ashfords' closest allies wince. "Maybe you're just imagining things," Maya replied, adjusting her bag strap with such calm that Jessica's brows drew together in suspicion. "I leave on time every day for one reason, and one reason only." "And what would that be?" Jessica crossed her arms, the glittering diamond bracelet on her wrist, turning the gesture into a performance of status. "I've asked 3 times already, and you keep dodging the question." For the first time, Maya turned to face her. Their eyes locked, and the force behind Maya's gaze made Jessica instinctively take a step back. "You really want to know?" There was something in her voice, a quiet promise that once this door was opened, it wouldn't be shut again. Jessica hesitated, but pride answered for her. "I demand to know. This is my house. My son and I have the right to know where my employee goes every afternoon." Employee, Maya repeated slowly, tasting the bitterness of the word. "Very well then, Jessica." The lack of a title made Jessica's eyes flare wide. "If you're that curious, why don't you come with me tomorrow? You'll learn everything you want to know." The challenge hung in the air like a ticking bomb. A shiver danced down Jessica's spine. Not fear, she told herself. Just surprise. Maya had never spoken to her like this before, never shown anything but polite submission. "Maybe I will," Jessica muttered, her voice now stripped of some of its usual icy edge. Maya smiled again, this time with something ominous beneath it. "Great, I'll see you tomorrow then." Then she walked through the door, leaving Jessica alone in the marble-clad foyer with a strange sensation creeping up her spine, like she'd just agreed to play a game without knowing the rules. Outside, Maya climbed onto her bicycle and pedaled into the sunset. On her back were 3 years of quiet endurance, and a plan that would soon turn the Ashfords' life of privilege into a heap of ash. Tomorrow, what Jessica would uncover wouldn't just change how she saw her nanny, it would change how she saw herself, and the price some people pay for being underestimated by those who should have known better. The next morning, Jessica woke up with a strange feeling in her chest. Not fear, women like her never feared the help. No, it was something colder. A simmering irritation at being challenged by someone she'd always assumed was firmly beneath her. By 4:45 p.m., she was already sitting in her black Mercedes-Benz parked 2 blocks away from the house waiting. At exactly 5 o'clock, Maya walked out, mounted her bicycle, and rode off with a steady, determined pace. Jessica followed at a safe distance, muttering under her breath, "Where the hell is she going every day?" The ride lasted 40 minutes, taking them to a part of the city Jessica only recognized from news reports, the kind of neighborhood she swore she'd never step foot in unless absolutely forced. Maya finally stopped in front of a small brick building with a faded sign out front, Community Legal Aid Center. Jessica squinted. Legal aid. What would a nanny need with lawyers? Through the front window, she saw a black man in a modest suit greet Maya with warmth. They hugged like old friends reunited. Then they sat at a table piled high with documents. Jessica leaned forward, just as Maya handed him something, a small electronic device. Well, well, Jessica murmured, pulling out her phone and snapping a few photos. Her fingers flew over the screen as she sent a message to her best friend, Catherine. "I found it. My nanny's been sneaking off every afternoon to some cheap legal office in the middle of the slums. Must be planning some ridiculous lawsuit. They always think they deserve more than they do." Catherine replied almost instantly, "Careful, Vic. Fire her before anything happens. They always hold grudges when they think they've been wronged." Jessica scoffed. Maya had worked in her home for 3 years, cared for little James with what appeared to be genuine devotion. But now it was clear. She was obviously building a bogus case, some made-up labor complaint trying to spin racism into places it never existed. She typed back, "I gave her a job, a roof, food, and now she wants more." So predictable. Sitting there in the car, Jessica's mind wandered to past moments, conversations with Maya that once felt harmless, now tinged with suspicion under the weight of growing unease. Like the time James asked, "Why can't Miss Maya swim with us in the pool this summer?" "Because she's working, sweetheart," Jessica replied, "and the staff have their own rules." Maya had heard every word. She didn't flinch, just lowered her head and continued tidying up the toys. Or the time Jessica saw Maya eating in the service quarters instead of the main kitchen. "I like eating here, Mrs. Jessica," she explained. But Jessica knew the real reason. She had made it clear from day one the main kitchen was for family only. Then there were the dinner parties with friends when they'd talk about the help these days while Maya poured wine just a room away. "They don't know their place anymore," Jessica had once said. "Give them an inch, and they take a mile." An hour later, Maya exited the office, a yellow file folder in hand. Jessica tailed her all the way home, her mind spinning with theories. Once they arrived, Jessica waited a few extra minutes, pretending to have just returned from the spa. "Maya," she called out when she heard movement in the kitchen. "We need to talk." Maya stepped into the doorway, wearing that same calm, familiar smile, but Jessica was certain something was different now. There was a confidence in her eyes that hadn't been there before. "Where were you today?" Jessica asked directly. Arms crossed. "Same place as always, Mrs. Jessica." "And where exactly is that, if I may ask?" Maya tilted her head and gave a faint smile. "Didn't you already follow me and find out?" Jessica froze. How did Maya know she'd been tailing her? "I don't know what you're talking about," she lied, but her voice didn't carry the usual authority. "Of course you don't," Maya said, and for the first time in 3 years, Jessica caught a trace of sarcasm in her tone. "But since you're so curious, maybe tomorrow you should ask the right question." "What question?" This time Maya's smile wasn't the obedient kind, it held a warning. "The question isn't where I go, Mrs. Jessica. It's what I bring back when I leave." A chill ran down Jessica's spine. The way Maya said it with that calm certainty made it sound like she held truths Jessica had never dared to consider. "I don't appreciate cryptic answers, Maya." "I know," Maya replied, adjusting the strap on her bag. "You like things clear, simple. But sometimes the truth has to be built slowly, piece by piece, until the full picture is undeniable." That night, Jessica barely slept. At 2 a.m., she called Catherine. "She knows I followed her," she whispered. And the way she spoke, it was like she knows something. "Fire her," Catherine urged, "before it's too late." But Jessica knew firing Maya now would be admitting defeat. And Jessica Ashford didn't lose. Especially not to someone like Maya. Not until she knew exactly what game was being played. The next morning, Jessica rose with a steely resolve. If Maya was plotting something, she would uncover it. Even before stepping out of bed, she was already on the phone with her assistant. "Rachel, I need a full background check on my nanny, MayaSantos. everything. Birthplace, schools, previous addresses, family court records, anything you can find. Is there anything specific I should be looking for, Mrs. Ashford? Just being cautious. Sometimes people like her have motives we don't see right away. While Jessica schemed in her upstairs bedroom just a few feet away, Maya was calmly preparing breakfast for James like she did every morning. But inside her handbag, tucked neatly between tissues and candy, was a small recorder capturing the entire phone call from moments ago. "Good morning, James," she said gently, helping the 6-year-old into his chair. "Can we have scrambled eggs today?" he asked, like always. The question was simple enough. But what followed made Maya pause. "Why does Mommy talk different when you're not there?" James asked, wide-eyed. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" she says. "Words you taught me were bad. Yesterday she told Aunt Catherine that people like you always ask for more than they deserve." Maya slowly crouched down to meet his gaze, keeping her voice soft and steady. "And what do you think about that, James? I like eating here, Miss Jessica," she explained. But Jessica knew the real reason. She'd made it clear from day one areas like the main kitchen were reserved for family only. Then there were those dinner parties with friends when they'd talk about the help these days, while Maya poured wine just one room away. "They don't know their place anymore," Jessica once said. "Give them an inch and they'll take a mile." An hour later, Maya walked out of the office, a yellow file folder in hand. Jessica immediately followed her home, her mind spiraling with suspicions. Once they arrived, she waited a few minutes to make it seem like she'd just gotten back from the spa. "Maya," she called out at the sound of movement in the kitchen. "We need to talk." Maya appeared at the doorway wearing that familiar, calm smile, but Jessica could tell something had shifted. There was a new confidence in her eyes that hadn't been there before. "Where were you today?" Jessica asked bluntly, arms crossed. "The usual place, Miss Jessica. And exactly where would that be, may I ask?" Maya tilted her head and gave a soft, almost amused smile. "Haven't you already followed me and found out?" The question stunned Jessica. How did Maya know she'd been trailing her? "I don't know what you're talking about." Jessica lied, though her voice lacked its usual conviction. "Of course not," Maya replied, and for the first time in 3 years, Jessica caught a hint of irony in her tone. "But since you're so curious, maybe tomorrow you should ask the right question." And what question would that be? Maya's smile this time wasn't submissive. It was a warning. "The question isn't where I went, Miss Jessica. It's what I brought back with me." A chill ran down Jessica's spine. The way Maya said it, quiet, composed, certain, as if she held truths Jessica wasn't ready to face. "I don't like riddles, Maya." "I know," Maya said, adjusting the strap of her bag. "You prefer things clear, simple. But sometimes the truth has to be built slowly, piece by piece, until the whole picture is undeniable." That night, Jessica barely slept. At 2 a.m., she called Catherine. "She knows I followed her," she whispered. And the way she spoke, it's like she knows something. "Fire her," Catherine urged, "before it's too late." But Jessica knew firing Maya now would be admitting defeat. And Jessica Ashford was not the kind of woman who lost to someone like Maya, not without knowing exactly what game was being played. The next morning, Jessica awoke with iron determination. If Maya was scheming something, she would uncover it, all of it. Before even stepping out of bed, she called her assistant. "Rachel, I want you to run a full background check on my nanny, MayaSantos. Everything. Where she was born, where she studied, past addresses, family court records, anything you can dig up. Anything specific I should look for, Mrs. Ashford." Just being cautious. People like her sometimes have hidden motives we don't catch right away. While Jessica plodded from her bedroom just a few meters away, Maya calmly prepared breakfast for little James. But tucked carefully inside her handbag beneath tissues and candy was a small recorder that had just captured Jessica's entire phone call. "Good morning, James," she said gently, helping the 6-year-old settle into his chair. "Can we have scrambled eggs today, please?" It was an ordinary request, but what followed stopped Maya in her tracks. "Why does Mommy talk different when you're not there?" James asked, eyes wide with innocence. "What do you mean, sweetie? She says words you told me are bad. Yesterday she told Aunt Catherine that people like you always want more than they deserve." Maya slowly knelt down so she was at eye level with him, her voice soft. And what do you think about that, James? I think Mommy's wrong. You're the best person I know. At that exact moment, Jessica entered the kitchen, still in her robe, phone pressed to her ear. Yes, Catherine? Exactly. She's definitely gathering evidence for some frivolous lawsuit. People like that always do when they realize the party's over. Jessica didn't realize both Maya and James had heard every word, nor did she notice that the device in Maya's bag had quietly switched back on. I'll be out early today, Jessica announced coldly. Meeting with the family lawyer. Of course, Miss Jessica. James will be well cared for. Jessica studied Maya's face for a long moment, searching for signs of guilt or fear. But all she found was an unsettling calm. 2 hours later, in Marcus Thompson's office, a civil rights and labor lawyer, Maya emptied the contents of the yellow folder onto the table. It wasn't just audio recordings. It was screenshots of messages between Jessica and her friends, photos capturing subtle acts of humiliation, even covert videos taken when Jessica thought she was alone. Maya? Marcus was speechless. You've been recording this for 3 years, every insult, every joke laced with racism, every moment she treated me like I wasn't human. Maya's voice was steady but heavy. And it's not just me, Marcus. She treats anyone she sees as beneath her this way. Staff, delivery workers, anyone outside her world. Marcus clicked on the most recent audio file, the morning's phone call. She called you people like that and said you're plotting against her. Maya gave a bitter smile. The irony is, I am plotting, just not the way she thinks. And your real background, when will you reveal that? Maya drew a deep breath. For 3 years, she'd kept it hidden, 2 bachelor's degrees in psychology and law, a master's in social policy. She didn't become a nanny out of necessity. It was part of her PhD research into racism in elite households. Not yet. I want her to dig her own hole a little deeper. Elsewhere, Jessica sat in her lawyer's office, David Sterling, a seasoned attorney for the ultra-wealthy. I need to terminate her without leaving any room for a lawsuit, Jessica explained. I suspect she's gathering material for some bogus legal action, based on what Sterling asked as he took notes. Strange behavior, visiting cheap law offices. Her attitudes changed, and I may have said a few things that could be taken the wrong way, such as nothing serious, just a few comments about cultural differences. Things any reasonable person would understand, but you know how they are always overly sensitive. Sterling gave her a long look. Jessica, I need you to be honest. If there's even a hint of discriminatory behavior, it's not discrimination, Jessica snapped. It's just reality. I pay her well. She lives in my house. If she doesn't like it, she can find another job, not make up stories. Back in Marcus's office, Maya pulled out the last item from her file, a journal meticulously kept over 3 years documenting not just events, but James's emotional reactions. He's growing up surrounded by normalized racism. James is a good kid, but he's started repeating the things his mom says. Yesterday, he asked why I can't swim like her friends. Marcus closed his eyes, visibly moved. And you have all of this fully documented, every conversation, every time she spoke about me like property, every look that made me feel lesser. Maya, with this evidence, we can go beyond a labor suit. This is systemic racial discrimination. We could go public. Maya nodded slowly. That's what I want. She needs to face the consequences for every cruel word, every condescending glance, every time she thought her wealth would shield her from accountability. The next day, when Jessica walked into the house, the air inside the mansion felt heavier than usual. Afternoon sunlight streamed through the towering glass windows, casting long shadows across the marble floor, where Maya stood waiting, clutching a black file folder. Good afternoon, ma'am, Maya said, her voice calm, as if all 3 years of quiet endurance had been leading to this moment. You're still here, Jessica narrowed her eyes. I thought you understood there was no need for you to come back. Oh, I understand perfectly, Maya nodded. I just thought I should stop by to say goodbye and to give you this. She placed a sleek black folder onto the glass coffee table in the middle of the living room. When the latch clicked open, the polished facade of the Ashford household, cracked wide-open voice recordings, photographs, messages, journals, an avalanche of evidence that Jessica barely had to skim to realize this was the end. What the hell is this? Jessica's voice trembled hoarse. Are you trying to threaten me? No, ma'am, Maya replied, her eyes never leaving her former employer. I'm helping you see yourself clearly. I don't have to invent anything. Your own words did the damage. Jessica blinked rapidly, her hands shaking as she flipped through the stack printed emails laced with entitlement text messages, calling Maya the educated maid, audio clips of Jessica saying some people are just born to serve. You were spying on me. You set me up. Her voice rose with panic. Maya said nothing, but her silence cut sharper than any retort. Don't worry. I'm not suing you, Maya said, resting her hand on top of the folder. I have something better. Jessica's mouth fell open. You're going to the press. You can't do that. You signed an NDA and you violated basic human rights, Maya said softly. No non-disclosure agreement can protect systematic racism. Jessica opened her mouth to object, but nothing came out. Her own words, once tossed so carelessly, now wrapped around her throat like a noose. You don't understand what you're doing. If this goes public, my family will be destroyed. Maybe, Maya replied, her voice laced with quiet sorrow. But maybe it wasn't me who destroyed it. Maybe it was you all along, you just never had the courage to face it. Just then, James entered from the back door holding a crayon drawing. He paused when he saw Maya and his mother facing off, unsure what was happening, but feeling the tension. Miss Maya, do you like my picture of Mommy? He asked, hopeful. Maya looked at the drawing, Jessica standing proudly in the garden with James at her side. Maya wasn't in it. She had already been erased from the visual memory of the child who once loved her most. She knelt beside him, gently touching his head. It's a beautiful drawing, she said softly, but next time, don't forget to draw the person you'll miss the most. Okay, James nodded and ran off, Jessica's fists clenched. You think you've won? Maya stood tall. No, Mrs. Ashford. I don't need to win. I just need to make sure you never walk over people without consequences again. She picked up the folder but left behind a copy. This one's for you, so you know what's coming. And then she turned and walked away. No need to look back. No need to say another word. 3 weeks later, a long-form article made the front page of a leading publication, From Nanny to Whistleblower, the woman who exposed the dark side of the elite. The story went viral. Jessica Ashford was suspended from her philanthropic boards, lost major sponsorship deals, and became a pariah in elite social circles. Public outrage exploded, but so did admiration for Maya, whose precision and resilience stunned a nation. And at a prestigious university campus, Maya stood before a panel of academic judges, presenting her PhD thesis, Power, Subtle Racism, and the Silent Witnesses in Affluent Households. She ended her defense with one last recording, Jessica's voice cold and condescending, echoing across a room full of white scholars. The room fell silent. Nothing else needed to be said. Truth has a sound of its own. 3 months later, on the rooftop of a Harlem cafe, Maya sat quietly with a cup of herbal tea, the sunset flickering in her eyes like the last embers of a burning memory. Beside her, Mason, the lawyer, an old friend who had helped her gather evidence, hung up a call and turned to her. It's official, he said. You didn't just win in court, you won in the hearts of the people. Maya smiled faintly, but it wasn't the smile of a victor. It was the smile of someone who had survived a storm, proud but tired. Have you ever wondered, she said, if it's possible to forgive the unforgivable? Mason said nothing. He knew she wasn't talking about the insults, the condescending glances, or the hateful messages from Jessica Ashford's supporters. She was talking about the kind of wound that becomes part of your flesh. Just last week, Jessica's lawyer had sent a proposal to settle. No court, no countersuit, no more noise. Just one condition: Maya had to agree never to release any further materials in exchange for a 6-figure payment. Are you going to sign it? Mason asked. Maya looked out at the street where black children were playing basketball beneath flickering streetlights. Kids who had been taught to behave twice as well just to be respected half as much. No, she said firmly. I don't want blood money. I want the truth to stay alive. So what will you do? Maya took a long breath. I'll write every story, every scar, not out of revenge, but to remember. She reached into her bag and pulled out a manuscript. On the cover, The Invisible Ones in Beautiful Homes. It was a testimony, a document, a memoir, but more than that, it was a mirror held up to a privileged class that had lived for generations without seeing anyone beyond themselves. 6 months later, the book was released. A film producer reached out offering to buy the rights. Maya declined. I don't need Hollywood painting over my pain, she said. Instead, she held talks at schools, churches, and community centers. She spoke directly to the nannies, the housekeepers, the cleaning staff, reminding them that their voices mattered, that their endurance should never be assumed. One evening, after a reading at the Brooklyn Public Library, an elderly woman approached her quietly. You know, the woman whispered, I stayed silent for 30 years in a house people called Picture Perfect. Thank you, for speaking for all of us. Maya took her hand. It trembled, but it was warm. You're not invisible anymore, she said. Then one quiet Saturday afternoon, Maya received a letter in an unmarked envelope. Inside a folded note and a child's drawing. A little black woman and a young boy were playing on a swing set. They were both laughing. At the bottom corner, written in careful crayon, James. Age 5. The letter was handwritten short. I can't erase what I said, thought, or did. But I know I was wrong. Not because the world says so, but because for the first time I listened to myself. And your silence, that hurt the most. If I could wish for anything, it's that my son grows up and never becomes me. No signature. But Maya knew exactly who it was from. She folded the letter and placed it gently in a wooden box where she kept memories that didn't need to be displayed but couldn't be discarded. Then she stepped out onto her balcony, closed her eyes, and let the wind brush against her face. Forgiveness isn't about setting others free. It's about freeing yourself to move forward. Maya chose to move forward, not forgetting, but no longer clinging to what wasn't worthy of holding on to. And for the first time in years, she felt truly free. Maya turned silent years of pain into power, not just exposing a family, but challenging an entire system built on silent prejudice. Victoria's downfall wasn't personal. It was the spark of a reckoning. This is a story of courage, truth, and the real cost of underestimating those you deem beneath you. If Maya's journey moved, you don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. There are more stories like this coming. Because real power is standing up for what's right, even when the world refuses to see you. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, like the video if you believe justice can come from the smallest voices. Subscribe so you never miss more powerful and true stories like this one. Comment if you've ever stood up for someone you love even when no one else believed you.